I know exactly where we want to go. I'm not talking about tomorrow. I'm talking in 15 years. I already know where I want to go. But the whisper is helping you make the next step. So that's what I miss. I miss where I stand today and the vision that I have and the direction where I want to go, but there is no path there. Okay? So the whisper is sometimes one additional idea and it's one feedback that actually gets you move forward. Okay? And you say, wow, why did I didn't think about that before? That's getting me closer to the vision that I have. But I think the most incredible thing is that since day one, even before launching the company, I had a very clear vision of where I want to get the company going in 10 to 15 years' time. But I'm learning things in the process that I had no idea about 2 years ago.
Welcome to 99 Humans. My name is Jeff Lakusta, curious coach and Wall Street Journal best-selling author, striving to understand how little things generate big impact.
And I'm Nadia, Carta, tech executive and lifestyle coach with a mission to transform lives and corporations by kindling hearts to generate a zeal for life.
Each week, we investigate stories about the human side of leadership to re-energize your spirit and help you become a stronger leader.
Because the reality is that leadership is messy, goofy, challenging, but always human.
Thanks for spending time with us today. Let's dive in.
I mean, what I will say is that you have a special place in my heart, which is a limited space, and my heart is in high demand, Alfonso. So,
I'm sure it is.
and it's a huge pleasure having you here today for a couple of reasons. Number one, because you've been a very successful Google leader. And number two is because I always have this image of you as a person that wants more from life. Is this accurate?
Yes, I'm not sure it's a positive thing, to be honest.
Let's start there.
It is what it is, you know. The feeling of actually not feeling satisfied. To be honest, it's on one side it's difficult to manage because we'll never be enough in terms of careers, achievement, and the rest. But on the other side, I think it's also what can actually help you achieve something bigger in life. And that's where I want to see as something that has both a negative side in a way on a personal level, but also a very positive side in terms of when you get old and you look back at yourself, I don't think you will regret the choices that you made.
Alfonso, I love this starting place for the conversation. I'd love to hear, what are the accomplishments, the achievements, as you said, that you're most proud of when you reflect back on your life?
I will start from the fact that I started my life in general with something that I was extremely passionate about, that was playing football. That became my biggest failure in a way when I was very young. Okay, because I was feeling that I would be able to become a very successful football player, and sacrificing myself and working like crazy, not going out with my friends on Saturday because on Sunday I had to go and play. So really learning about sacrifice and learning about losing and standing up the day after to go back, to train and so on. And then I got double injury on my left ankle, and I had to actually stop playing football. Okay, despite it seemed that I could have had a fantastic career in football, and then because of an injury, then I had to stop that. Correct. So first of all, I think that this was a big lesson for myself, and it was something that maybe gave me a lot of energy, to try to do something else really big in my life. and so that's a bit, how it started. And then I have to say that from that point, to get a degree really fast, because I was not really a superstar at school, because I was not really studying a lot. So I think the biggest, first achievement, what I was proud about myself, was really about, really starting to focus on, becoming best in class, in at university, in order for me to actually try to do something bigger in life. I had no idea, because I'm coming from a small city in Naples, and I didn't really have any reference point. It's not that I had the people in my life that were CEOs or, important corporate people that I could look up to and so on, and learn and get some advice. So it was, okay, I've done this. I think this is a massive achievement. And then you learn after starting to work that is not really, you haven't done anything yet, in general in life. But it's good to have some intermediate objectives, and then to achieve them, and then understand, what's next, and then to work on that. But I will say that the first thing also that, made me actually start an incredible career was, without even knowing, that I was lucky enough, to get into Booz Allen Hamilton. That was a consulting company. Now it's called Strategy and so on. And I was very lucky, because I got into something that really made me learn, the majority of what I understand today, that is about, problem solving and storytelling, and having a vision, and, discuss with some very senior people about strategy of company and organization and how they link to each other. So I learned so much, but I had no idea when I got into that I would be able to learn so much. And if I look at my life, actually, I think that's the first phase where I think I have three phases in my life, and that's the first phase of my life where I really didn't learn anything about leadership. You just learn how to work very hard, because I was working extremely hard in consulting, 7 days per week, waking up very early and working till night, to make sure that we could solve problems for clients and deliver some fantastic insights for them. But you learn how to work really hard and to solve problems and to become extremely effective. And I think that's the...
Alfonso, I'm gonna
Yes.
pause you for a minute, because you unfolded some pretty massive things.
Okay.
And you're speeding up, and I think you're hoping that we're not going to ask you a question, but that's not how it works in this podcast. And
Really?
so
Okay.
we're going to ask you some pretty hard questions. And I want to dwell on a couple of things, and I know that Jeff, you have questions too. But first of all, I want to dwell into, you keep saying that you are lucky. You said, I got lucky. And let me tell you, I don't think there's anything about being lucky about what you said, because, I picture, I know Naples and the environment where you probably grew up, and that's nothing about being lucky. That's about having grit and having self-love for yourself and having ambition. And so it seems to me, clearly there was this event about your ankle that probably the universe wanted to tell you that you had bigger
Yes.
things to do than just playing football, which is fine, but I feel that you got so much more out of that, and we're so lucky
Yes.
that we have you. But I want to know about your feelings in all this, because you clearly said, I didn't have any role models, and I didn't have anyone to show me what good looks like. And so, how old were you when all of this happened back then?
Ooh. You mean the injury? I was 16.
So you were 16, and then you decided to go to college. You
Yeah.
graduated. Who was holding you through all of these experiences back then?
I will say that I don't know. It's something that comes from inside you. It's the fire. I don't know if you have it or if you develop it by looking around you and looking at maybe what you have and what other people have. Yeah, I think it comes from experiencing the world and actually feeling that you want to do much more. And that's where this fire came. And to be honest, if I go back to my first experience, in consulting, I had zero issues working 24/7. So for me, it was zero impact on, I never felt tired. I never felt that was difficult. For me, there was one objective that was learning and develop myself. And and try to do something bigger in my life.
Alfonso, this concept of hard work, I think Nadia and I can certainly relate to. And it feels to me like every leader that we interview has this as a foundational piece of their journey, right? Learning to just work hard. And I feel like that's one of my superpowers. I'm like, when I really want something, I can work my ass off and I feel like then it's achievable. That's a wonderful mindset. But that's not the normal mindset, I don't think. And I'm curious to hear from you because you have led so many different people and experienced so many different mindsets from folks in your team. Is that the mindset that's required for success? And what happens when you run into folks who don't have that same concept of hard work, right? Like, we're just going to get it done. We're going to work a lot, and then it's going to be okay on the other side. That's what I hear propelling you forward. But I'm sure your teams are not comprised of 100% folks who agree with that concept.
Yes, and that's, I believe that, human beings in general, there's not one option for them, correct? And there is not one leader where they maybe can give their best. And sometimes there is no fit, correct? And if there is no fit, you have to take some tough decisions, because the worst thing you can do is not to take decision and let yourself fail as a leader. And doesn't mean that the person is bad, eventually that person, but it's just it doesn't fit, in general, what you want to achieve with your team. And as a leader, I took a lot of very difficult decisions of having a lot of people, having them to let go and do something else in their life.
Could you tell us one of those stories to make it real for us?
But, I strongly believe that people can understand themselves when things are actually not working. It never really comes by surprise, especially when they see around them, what other people are doing that is based on what you expect them to do. But it's not even what you expect them to do, it's what they are actually very willing, to do by themselves, because they have the same grit, they have the same ambitions and so on. And these are the kind of people that, I love in general to lead, because in that case, you really have just to guide them and be there for them without having to do their job. And if you have to do the job of someone else, it's a big waste of time for them, because they are not learning, for you because you are wasting all your time with them. And usually I'm really fast in taking these kind of decisions when things don't work. And the problem is that when things don't work, it doesn't impact just yourself and the person, it also impacts the rest of the people around you, because they see the behavior, and people are really smart and they capture why maybe this person is part of the team if it doesn't really work well with us, with the leader and so on. And that's where, if you take that kind of decision, I think it's appreciated by everyone. And most likely, it's also appreciated by the person that maybe can find a much better option for himself or herself.
So, Alfonso, you said something special here. You said, I'm very fast in taking this decision. And most of the times, I do see leaders trying to push the envelope as much as possible of not taking the decision. And I agree with you that not taking the decision actually impacts everyone, because it's like a poisonous weed that ruins all of the flowers in a garden. Or to mention something in the wine space that you love, it's like a bad grape that then ruins all the rest of the wine that you are preparing. What enables you to take fast decisions?
I take fast decision when I see that the gap is too big, first of all. Okay. Everyone needs to have an opportunity to learn and grow and develop. But sometimes, there are situations where you see that the gap is massive. Okay. And then there is no point in wasting your time and your team's time in trying to fix. Okay. So in that case, you have to be fast.
So basically, okay, I'm gonna drop a bomb here, one of my bombs. You're saying that, let's say you see an individual and you understand there's a huge gap between the individual and what you want to create for that team, and you're like, yeah, I'm sorry, like, you're not gonna match it. Do you give feedback before to the individual and say, hey, like,
For sure. Yeah,
and
there are discussions, there are direct, indirect feedbacks. I remember in my last job at Google, when I started, I think I had a team of maybe 12, 13 people. I took on a role. I didn't know anyone in the team in general, so as you know very well, you get on a new job, you have a new team, you didn't choose the people. And I think after 12 months, there was no one anymore from that team. And I built, a team of, I think we got to maybe 18, 19 people in 1 or 2 years. And they were all very different people. At that level of scale, in a company where this is very challenging, as you know.
oh, we know well.
Yes.
Especially Jeff.
You know the results, correct, Nadia? Meaning that we were in emerging markets, the fastest growing team for like maybe 3 years in a row. Okay, so I mean, if you want to achieve incredible results, I think you need to have, the best possible team, to do that, and that's where you cannot compromise.
You're describing this, looking back in what I'd say is a positive light, almost a thing of pride to say, I took a team and got them high performing, and it required some massive fast decisions, which I commend you on. But I know Nadia alluded to it a little bit, that it's hard on the individual who has to make those decisions. How do you balance that and manage your own emotions and honestly get to sleep at night, knowing that you're on a very hard path, that while I love the idea of 12 months, way to go, applause to you. Yes, it is hard in a big company to move that fast, but that's not very fast when that's 365 times you put your head on your pillow. How do you manage the time between?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very challenging process, really challenging. And, having to manage underperforming people, it takes a lot of your energy that you cannot spend on, thinking about your business in a different way, rethinking strategy, organization, and everything that comes with that. It gets very painful. Many times it got pretty painful, and the fact that you also work in an organization where, at the time, correct, now it's not the case. I have my company, I can decide much faster. Where they make this process even more painful in a way. Yeah, I mean, but it's worth going through that if then you get to a point where you make yourself redundant in a way. correct? Where you are able to get incredible people that can do incredible things, where you can really focus on their development and seeing them actually doing much bigger things after and so on. So painful, but it comes with, I think, an incredible reward in the medium to long term.
Alfonso, I have a tough question for you. And
Yes.
then I want to go back to the 3 phases because now.
Nadia, to be honest, there is no tough question when you manage a startup. I mean, you can ask me anything you want.
So we're going to get to that in the 2
Yeah,
phases.
exactly.
But what you're describing, let's say that I don't know you, and so I don't know anything about you, and I hear, oh, I work really hard and I'm not afraid, and then I clean. I'd be like, I'm not sure I want to work for this man. But then I know for a fact, because I know a lot of people that worked for you, that you are one of the most loved leaders that I've ever heard at Google. And so help us and our listeners understand. Because if I ask you, would you believe to be loved?
No, absolutely not. I was not leading to be loved. I was trying to do the best possible thing for the business, but also for the individuals. Because if someone is working for you and they can see that there is a lot of clarity about the direction, okay, in which you are going, if they see that there is consistency between the strategy and the organization that you are building, if they see that they are working in an incredible team of talents, because you were able to hire incredible people in the team, and if you see that you have a clear plan for developing talents, because once you are able to get incredible talents and the business is under control, you can spend a lot of your time in general in focusing on how to develop the people in the best possible way. Okay, and it's not just about yourself, it's how about organizing the system around you for people to develop themselves, because it's not me that I was actually developing the people plan for everyone, correct? But how do you put in place, okay, the system to get everyone to feel supported, but also when you achieve incredible results, that's where people start to love you, because everything starts to make sense. Okay, it makes sense because they see that they are being promoted fast. They see that everyone is looking at what they are doing, and this kind of talents, they appreciate that much more than you being direct and telling them what's working, what's not working, instead of being in a place where they have no idea what they are doing and the business is not doing well and they get worried and maybe they want to change job and so on. So I really had, very few people from my group of talents that actually left my team. And what I'm proud of, to be honest, if I look at what we are doing now, in the startup, is that despite us being in a startup, and it's not Google, I didn't have one person from the team that actually left because they felt that we were not going in the right direction, or the challenge is not big enough, for people that are looking for this kind of challenges and so on. So this is a bit, maybe the reason why people felt that way. But definitely, I was not there being nice, with, as you know very well, or being not transparent or direct with them. That's not my style, and I feel that in the long term, people will understand that you are doing the right thing for them.
We kind of need a bit of Alfonso in America, Jeff. What do you think?
I think
I'm not
so.
sure I'll do well.
Alfonso, you keep talking about the startup. Tell us what you're up to right now.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe to get into the startup, I told you a bit about the phase one of my life that was really about working super hard, and then I was thinking about the second part of my life where I was not working hard at Google, because with the experience in consulting, Google was a sort of walk in the park. With the kind of scope that they give you, it's pretty limited. You have big numbers, but the scope is not as challenging as definitely, having a startup or being in consulting. But that's where you really learn about taking care of people. And I think that was an incredible lesson for me, because I think it's one of the maybe best possible schools to learn about leadership, how it should be in an ideal world where you have so much money and you can hire everyone you want and you can do the best things, to develop the people in the best way. You have so much support and so on. So it's like living in an ideal world where you can really, let's say, experience leadership in the best possible way if you are capable. And then there is the third phase, the startup, is where, completely different level of hard work, a completely different level of leadership, because in terms of hard work, I mean, you work 24/7 and you always think about the same thing in general. And in terms of leadership, it comes with, the feeling of incredible responsibility. Because at Google, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Okay, you get fired, or but you don't have the feeling that maybe the company goes bust and you hired so many people and you feel responsible for all of them for moving to your company. I mean, it comes with a lot of pain and responsibility for what you are actually trying to do. So it's everything is at the completely different level, and the two things are together, and that's where the massive challenge from a leadership standpoint is. That means, I think after startup you can do anything.
Alfonso, if you were to go back to your phase one with what you know today and what you've done in your life, what would you tell? What would you tell the Alfonso in the consultancy world?
No, I will tell him that I will tell him that you will understand the value of what you are doing only when you will leave this world. But pay attention to the fact that you are not learning about leadership in this kind of space. Okay. While for me, I had no idea, because it was my first job. I never had a different job before, so I had no idea if that was maybe the way everyone was actually working. And I had no idea about what leadership means. So when I joined Google, actually, I mean, they were talking about these things, and I couldn't even understand what that was, because it doesn't exist, the concept of taking care of people, developing them. You work on different projects, different team members all the time. So you are not really responsible for an area of the business or developing your own team members and so on. So yeah, I will tell him that well done getting into this space. You will feel so grateful about this kind of experience that you will be having in consulting.
Your encouragement of young Alfonso to appreciate how sometimes what you're doing in the moment can't really be known the value until later on makes me think of your very first comments about ambition being a double-edged sword. And so I want to come back to that comment, because there is something about ambition that perhaps focuses you more on the future than it does on appreciating the accomplishments of the past. And I'm curious if that rings true for you, because you're saying now, when asked the question, like, oh yeah, and that those consulting days paid off, and that made all the difference for my phase 2 and my phase 3 now. Do you build in time today to appreciate how those moments of the past are impacting your abilities to run this company successfully? Or is that ambition keeping you from that reflection and focusing you more on, well, now we've got to climb this hill, and then you get to the top of that one and go, now I've got to climb this one?
No, I would say that the challenge of a startup is so massive that you don't need to to have bigger ambitions anymore. Meaning that, you know, it's tough enough as a challenge, okay, to be okay for quite some time. But, you know, going back to what you asked before, that is, what's the biggest accomplishment? I think one of the biggest accomplishment, it's a weird one, okay? But maybe for me as a human being, maybe the biggest accomplishment was to actually decide to leave Google in a very comfortable position, fantastic ratings, you know, great support from the company, and jump and living in Dubai extremely well and so on, and jumping into the unknown. And I think it happened because it was the unknown. Okay, so sometimes, you know, jumping in the unknown, you know, feels right because you have really no idea about what you are jumping into. And yeah, so it's if I think about, you know, what I've done, you know, living a very comfortable job and trying to build, you know, one of the most innovative company in the world. Yeah, I think that's something that actually makes me really proud.
You know, when I listen to what you shared in these 30 minutes, and when I look back to your life, I do see one fil rouge that I want to challenge to see if you see it as well, or maybe it's just me from the outside. Because you mentioned the unknown several times, and then you mentioned the working hard, and you mentioned, oh, I'm lucky. It feels to me, Alfonso, that you had an incredible intuition in your life pulling you forward or showing you. Would you feel that way too? Like, is it intuition that has been allowing you to jump into the unknown, or what is it? Because you're not a fool. Like, I know you are not a fool. Like, you're also a very rational person.
Yeah, extremely.
So, what is it?
You know, I'm in a space now where I feel that I'm being pulled in a direction. I don't want to say something that sounds a bit, okay, what is this guy talking about? But I feel that it's more like this is my direction. It's not something that I actually fully control. I'm being pulled in a direction to, you know, to use my talent in the best possible way, and hopefully do something bigger than myself. And, you know, it's very weird, but that's a bit the feeling. Sometimes, you know, you see that, you know, when you actually get into your, you know, meditative state, that, you know, I usually get also when I decide to walk for a few hours and so on, you start to see things that before you were not really seeing, that can really help in general, you know, myself, the company, you know, get into a new direction that then gets a lot of positive feedback, and gets the company going in a way. And I don't know if it's really, you know, if it's coming, you know, from the universe trying to help me, or it's coming from, you know, myself when I get into this special state.
I love that you're bringing this up. I mean, I think some people call it God, some people call it the universe, some people call it winds of change. I think like Bruce Lee said, be like water. And I think this is something that everybody feels but doesn't always tune into. But here's what I struggle with is, when do you know to stay the course, to, you know, have grit and burst through the door that looks closed, versus to listen to the whisper of the universe or whatever this is and go, maybe I'm not meant to open that door. Maybe I'm meant to go through this window instead. And to your point, you're in this comfortable position. Everything is nice and easy. You could have jumped ship many, many times along that journey, and yet you continued on until this whisper was strong enough that you said, yes, this is the one that I'm going to listen to. How do you tune that sense?
No, but I think it's a bit different, because the reality is that the vision of what I want to build is extremely clear. I know exactly where we want to go. I'm not talking about tomorrow. I'm talking in 15 years. I already know where I want to go. But the whisper is helping you make the next step. So that's what I miss. I miss where I stand today and the vision that I have and the direction where I want to go, but there is no path there. Okay? So the whisper is sometimes one additional idea, and it's one feedback that actually gets you move forward. Okay? And you say, wow, why did I didn't think about that before? That's getting me closer to the vision that I have. But I think the most incredible thing is that since day one, even before launching the company, I had a very clear vision of where I want to get the company going in 10 to 15 years time. But I'm learning things in the process that I had no idea about like 2 years ago. I said, wow, this is fantastic for me to get closer, let's say, to the vision that we actually have. So that's why I'm saying is not a whisper that takes you in a different place or different direction. It's actually a whisper that gets you closer, okay, to the possibility to build and achieve that vision that is extremely complex. Because in a startup, to make it going and not to fail is, it's already a massive achievement if you can get that.
I'm getting very emotional into this conversation for a couple of reasons. Number one is because I'm very proud of you, Alfonso. And I think I see through your passion, and I see through your words how big what you're doing is gonna be. I see it. Like I would work for you tomorrow. It's so your clarity, as you said, and your passion. I think your people feel it. It's palpable. Like I feel it here. Like even if we are in a time zone, like it's across the ocean. And number two, it's because I didn't know. I mean, of course, I knew you were amazing and you were bringing results and all of it, but I didn't know the version of Alfonso that I'm meeting today. And I like you even better because this is the future of amazing leaders. I mean, when I think about the big ones, like the Steve Jobs of the world, like this is what I see. It's people that are able to connect their brain and their heart and the systems that are around it. And I know you said I've been pulled. You can talk freely. In this podcast, we had witches, we speak about magic, we talk about spirituality as well. We covered it all. And it doesn't matter what it is. Like, it doesn't matter that it's religion or whatever people call it. What matters is that it's the fuel, is the enthusiasm that allows you to create great and big things. And so I really want to salute you, Alfonso. I'm really proud of you. This is amazing.
Thank you. No, it's it's amazing, but doesn't mean it's easy. Correct? But that's what actually gives me so much energy. Is feeling that we could build something really disruptive and big. Okay, but not just big in terms of business. Really big in terms of impact on the world. I'll give you one example. I cannot talk too much about our tech roadmap and so on, but I had this vision, for example. I always felt that I wanted to do something much bigger than myself. Correct? That means that, okay, so what? You are doing a big company, then so what? Correct? But I think once I was on a plane, and that we work a lot with blockchain, and the value of blockchain is in transparency, correct? but a level of transparency that makes people in the system very comfortable. Okay, and possibly, let's say in the case of what we do with wines, because let's say the bottle is certified in blockchain, it's authentic, it comes with full traceability in the world of wine. Just to give you an example, it's very important because if you move the bottle around the world, the wine is dead. Because the more you move, it's a live product, the more it deteriorates. So when you actually use blockchain in the right way, bringing transparency in the system, people say, wow, okay, now I can actually see that the bottle, the journey was producer, warehouse of the company, actually my home. And when I try, it's definitely better, but because of what's the journey of that bottle, most likely will taste even better than if you have the same bottle that maybe made the same journey but without blockchain. So, but the once I had this vision that was like for me incredible, because when you think about the impact we can have on the world, and you think about the value that blockchain can have as a technology, I said, what if we use blockchain for charity? Because what if we are able to use this technology to show exactly what's happening to the flow of money? Will this help people maybe donate much more? Okay, so that we can have a bigger impact in general in the world. And because I was so excited, because I said, wow, maybe this is the reason why I'm actually doing all of this. Okay, I found something, that, yeah, if you can achieve that, will make, myself extremely proud. And we had our first charity auction 2 weeks ago. It was the biggest charity auction in the world of wines that, because of the technology that we built, decide to actually run the auction on our platform. Now, it's not the full solution that I have in mind, that I envision, where then you can follow the flow of all the money actually going through the charity. But for me, getting already into that space with a big statement that we are here, okay, to stay and to play a role in charity, okay, was actually a massive achievement towards the vision that I have, where we want to add so many other things. But it's not just the best technology, it's also the technology that enables and brings a lot of transparency. And this possibly could become, an accelerator for charity activities in the world. Okay, so this is just to tell you, the way I'm actually thinking when I think about what I want to achieve and where all this energy comes from.
I love it. I am on board that what you're doing for two reasons. A, I love wine. Who doesn't love wine? And then what you've described and making it even better sounds amazing. But in one of my life phases, I worked in founding a nonprofit, and we did a lot of work in sub-Saharan Africa and ran into tons of challenges, especially with the Namibian government at the time, and trying to work with them, work around them. Following the flow of dollars is a very huge challenge that all charities face. So kudos to you. We're approaching the end here, and I'd love for you to reflect on this 40-minute discussion that we've had here. And I actually want to frame it in the minds of, what piece of advice do you have? But for folks who are in big corporations, look back at the Alfonso phase 2, the one at Google. We have a lot of listeners who are in big corporations looking for that next step, listening for the winds of change, or maybe plugging their ears and singing a song, trying to ignore, that whisper to do something else. What advice do you have for those folks?
Yeah, I think I have a very clear advice, because, when I was at Google, working in a big corporation, you realize after a long time that you are just a number, correct? I was feeling that entrepreneurs were losers that were not able to make it in the corporate world. I'm very honest. This was my thinking, and I'm sure it's the thinking of a lot of people working in the corporate world. And since I started this, I look back at myself, and the way I was thinking before, and you realize, okay, that there's no better way, okay, to change the world than actually being able to take all the best possible decisions in general to achieve that objective. And when you are very limited in a company in terms of scope and space and decision making and the rest, you can only have a very small impact. Okay, so I'm not saying that everyone should jump off and do their own startup, because this is extremely tough. Okay, but the reality is that there is an opportunity out there, okay, for you to have a much bigger impact in the world than just being in a big corporation and feeling that you are amazing and you are doing something massive and so on. Okay, so this is a bit. So I don't want to give an advice. I want to explain how my actually perspective has changed, jumping from a big corporation into the startup world. And I feel that everything that we have been doing, okay, from an innovation standpoint, is only possible because at a certain point I said, okay, I want to stop that and actually try to do something by myself. And then the opportunities are really incredible. Okay, so if you jump off, it's not that the opportunity are smaller. It can be really big, but you need to be extremely passionate, hardworking, and resilient, because 90% of the time, you will be swimming in a storm. Okay, and it's not easy, to deal with that kind of emotions, when you are an entrepreneur. And I'm very lucky because as a person that has, being in sport for, 12, 13 years when I was young, losing a lot of important games and standing back and actually, restarting, on the Monday to train and so on. I think I became extremely resilient because of my, let's say, football experience, correct? And otherwise, I think, the experience of startup becomes extremely challenging.
Alfonso, you continue to say that you're lucky, but I don't think you're lucky. You just work your ass off.
Well, that's definitely true. Okay, there is no question mark about that. But sometimes it's not enough. It's not
That's
that.
where the magic hand comes and helps.
Oh my God, it takes me say, okay, look at this thing. Maybe you will do better. I have few magic hands helping me, I have to say.
I love that. Oh my God, Alfonso. I hope you are considering writing a book or getting your thoughts out in a way. I know you don't have the time because you need to run the company, but the world deserves to hear you. And, I'm not going to say I feel lucky. I'm going to say I feel grateful that I got to know you and that we got you on the show. And I can't wait for our listeners to tune in this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about it.
Thank you very much.
We'll be in touch. And you are in New York?
We're in New York. Well, Jeff is in Atlanta.
Okay, perfect. We'll
Yeah.
catch up if often I'm there, to meet investors and clients. So maybe
I know. I had drinks with Ina, and so I'm waiting for you to come as well. I don't know when I'm going to be in Dubai. It's a bit too far from here now, but I would love to see you.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a wonderful
Alfonso. Talk
day.
soon.
Bye. Bye. Wow.
That was a great discussion. I feel like we started talking about managing performance of teams and ended with the whisper of change to follow a passion and have a bigger impact on the world. We covered a gamut there. I loved it.
Oh my God. I think this is going to go probably in one of my top 5 conversations we had on the show. I appreciated the English word, the span of things we covered. And I knew that with Alfonso, we would have had a great conversation, and this surpassed my expectations.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Well, so Nadia, of course, I'm going to ask you, within such a fantastic conversation, what are you taking away?
I got very emotional. I had few moments that my eyes were watery. Like I was really into the moment. Like
You have a history together as well, which adds a new dimension. I think that's really special.
that maybe that's it. But Alfonso and I never worked in the same teams or on the same project. I've always known Alfonso through other leaders and through other people, right? So, and I was expecting a very management type of conversation. I was expecting a very by the book type of leadership conversation. And instead, I got like a life lesson. This was a life lesson from football taught me how to be resilient to the whisper that I wanted to listen. And I know that we didn't touch on a lot of other topics that Alfonso could have covered. So my my biggest takeaway, I don't want to say that I've been pulled from something because that would be very obvious coming from me. I mean, everyone knows that I'm like, yeah, the universe was pulling you. I want to talk about his point when he said about clarity, consistency,
Mm.
and talents and all of it, and those being the trait of great leaders. Too often, I feel we don't talk about those hardcore skills that are required from leaders. Of course, I love taking care of my people, and I love building environment that are inclusive and everything. What he said about providing clarity and consistency and managing a top performing teams, those are things that people want from a leader. People want their leader to have a clear direction and then take the team through it with consistency. And so I did love all the conversation. And this point specifically is a big validation of my leadership style.
I
What
love
about
that.
you, Jeff?
Well, I think that one hit home for sure for the reasons that we talked about. But I want to go to maybe his piece of advice right at the end as such a great twist on our usual close of the show, right? We said, "What advice do you have?" And he really didn't give advice. He just said, "Well, I used to be in corporate world and think this, and now I'm outside and I realize that the amount of impact I can have and how wrong I was about people not in the corporate world." And that really hit home with me because I do think you get pretty cozy working in a structured environment. And everybody knows that corporations they don't have it all together, right? And managing ambiguity, things are a mess, everything's changing constantly, things aren't clear or consistent as often as they should be. And yet, there is so much supporting structure that's taken for granted and forgotten, and then we pretend like we're in ambiguity all the time. And then you take the plunge and you're in real ambiguity and you go, "Oh shit, this is way more responsibility than I ever, thought or had or realized." And I think that's an important check. It's not to say one thing's better than the other, but just kind of to check ourselves in the corporate world and remember to be grateful for some of the structure that we have, but also to realize that there's a whole new world out there, and leaving that safety can be incredibly rewarding. And I think that was something really encouraging to hear too.
Wonderful as always. This was a deep conversation, and everybody, after you tune in, if you like it, give us some stars and write a review. We're really enjoying this ride, and your feedback and support helps us all. And thank you once again for being with 99 Humans. And Jeff, really lovely seeing you today.
Great seeing you. See you next time.
Bye.